Before you keep scrolling, stay here for a second, because this may explain the one connection you still cannot forget. Not the easy one. Not the one that looked good from the outside. I mean the one that changed something deep in you and never gave it back. Some people come into your life and leave behind a memory. You place it in the past. You move on. But some people arrive like a turning point. They touch a part of you that has been sleeping for years, and after that, nothing feels fully ordinary again. Call it timing. Call it fate. Call it a lesson if you want. But whatever name you choose, your heart already knows this was never small. It was never meaningless. And if you have been trying to move on while something inside you keeps turning back, then keep listening, because this is where it starts to make sense. There are times in life when someone appears and random chance feels too weak to explain it. You look back, you connect the dots. You try to make the story clean and logical so your mind can relax, but deep down, you already know logic was never in charge of this one. This person did not just enter your life. They came with meaning. They came with weight. They came with a purpose your mind may still be trying to understand. When they stepped into your world, something shifted in a quiet but lasting way. It did not need drama to be real. It did not need perfect words to prove itself. You felt it in your body, in your thoughts, in the way your inner world began to move after meeting them. And even now, when you tell yourself it is done, there is still a pull you cannot fully silence. Not panic, not obsession. Something deeper, something steady, something that keeps bringing your attention back. That is not happening because you are weak. It is happening because part of you knows this connection touched a truth that normal experiences do not reach. Big moments do not always arrive when life is calm and easy. Often they show up when something inside you is finally ready to wake up. Maybe that is why these words found you now. Maybe some part of you is opening its eyes and seeing what it tried to avoid before. There is a quiet knowing in you that refuses to go silent, no matter how much you try to think your way out of it. That matters. Passing feelings fade. Illusions fall apart. But what is real has a strange way of returning until it is understood the right way. So if this feels familiar, stay with me, because the next part may explain why this person still lives in your chest. You may feel divided right now. One side of you wants peace. It wants to let go, protect your heart, and keep moving without looking back. Another side of you cannot deny what was felt, what was opened, and what still feels unfinished. You go through your day trying to act normal while your heart keeps carrying a question your mind cannot answer. You may even ask yourself if you made it all up, or if you gave deep meaning to something that was never truly deep. But if it were only your imagination, time would have weakened it by now. Distance would have softened it, silence would have ended it. Yet something remains. And not only remains, it returns in quiet ways, in strange moments, in sudden waves that make no sense on the surface. That is why it is so hard to dismiss. It stayed alive because it reached a place inside you that knows truth before words can explain it. And truth is not always loud. It does not scream. It does not force itself. It waits. It rises in still moments. It returns in dreams. It shows up in sudden emotion. It appears in memories that hit your chest before your thoughts can catch up. Some connections are not here just to stir your feelings for a little while. They are here to shift something inside you. They open doors that cannot simply be shut again, no matter how much time passes or how far life moves. Once that kind of door opens, life does not go back to what it was before. That is why what you feel is not simple craving or surface attachment. Obsession is loud. It pushes. It demands quick answers. But what you may be feeling is quieter than that, deeper than that, and more honest than that. It moves under the surface. It waits in the background of your day. It appears when everything becomes still enough for you to hear yourself again. And here is something many people do not understand. Silence from the other person does not always mean there is no feeling there. Sometimes it means the feeling is so strong that they do not know what to do with it. Some people carry deep emotion behind calm faces. Some step back not because they feel nothing, but because they feel too much and do not know how to stay steady inside it. Their distance may not be a lack of care, it may be fear. Fear of being seen, fear of becoming vulnerable, fear of losing the emotional shield they built long before you arrived. This is where strong bonds often get complicated. One person opens faster, one person becomes honest first. The other feels exposed and steps back because the mirror in front of them is showing something they are not ready to face. And maybe you became that mirror. Maybe you touched the exact place they usually keep hidden from the world. That does not disappear just because someone avoids it. Once something real is awakened, it keeps working under the surface. Quietly, slowly, deeply. It does not vanish. It does not reset. It keeps shaping thoughts, reactions, and choices in ways that are not always easy to see. What they have not healed inside themselves may still be shaping how they act. People call it confusion, mixed signals, bad timing, fate. But many times it is simply unresolved fear wearing different masks. A person can care deeply and still run from what that care asks of them. They can feel something real and still delay it. They can miss what is right in front of them because they are not ready to live at that level of emotional honesty. But once something inside them has truly been touched, it does not go back to sleep easily. You may have entered their life to remind them what emotional truth feels like. And when a place like that gets opened, it remembers. Real encounters are never wasted. If this connection meant nothing, it would have ended cleanly. It would not keep echoing through memories, moments, and small reminders that still feel strangely alive. That does not mean you are meant to force anything. It only means there may still be movement happening that you cannot see yet. There is a difference between trying to break a locked door open and understanding that some doors only open when the moment is right. Do not click away yet, because this part matters. Many people rush here and make a mistake. They think hope is weakness, but grounded hope is not weakness at all. Sometimes it is intuition in a calmer form. And if your heart feels more steady than frantic when you think about this, pay attention. Calm often carries truth more clearly than fear ever does. At the same time, this path is not asking you to stay stuck. It is asking you to grow into something stronger inside yourself. That is the deeper reason for all of this. Since this connection entered your life, you may have noticed that you are changing. You are no longer satisfied with what once felt good enough. Shallow attention feels empty now. Half-hearted love feels obvious. Mixed energy that you once tolerated now feels draining. That shift matters more than you think. Sometimes a connection does not come to stay right away. Sometimes it comes to wake you up, to show you what you are able to feel, and to reveal what no longer fits the person you are becoming. That is why letting go feels so hard, because you are not only trying to release a person, you are also trying to understand the version of yourself that was born through that experience. Through this bond, you learned how deeply you can feel. You learned that your heart can hold real presence, real care, and real emotional depth. You learned that intensity is not always the same thing as truth. And once you learn that, you cannot easily go back to pretending empty connection is enough. The real shift begins when you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this showing me about who I am?" That is when pain starts turning into understanding. That is when confusion begins to become direction. And that is when the connection stops being only about the other person and starts becoming a path back to your own center. These kinds of bonds rarely move in straight lines. They circle back. They bring up the same patterns, but each time they ask for more awareness, more honesty, and more emotional maturity than before. That is why they can feel painful. It is not always a lack of feeling. Very often, it is a difference in timing. One person may be ready to open while the other is still surrounded by old fear and old habits of self-protection. That is why unresolved connections do not simply disappear. They stay under the noise of life. They rise when distraction fades. They get louder in silence. They return when the heart can no longer avoid itself. There are moments when you become a quiet reference point in someone's mind, even if they never say it out loud. And maybe that is why certain signs have felt stronger lately. Not to trap you in longing, but to keep teaching you the difference between attachment and alignment. Attachment says, I need this person to feel okay. Alignment says, I am already becoming whole, and what belongs with me will meet me there. That difference changes everything. The moment you stop chasing emotional certainty and start standing in your own clarity, the entire energy begins to shift. Pressure starts to lift. The bond is no longer fed by fear. It begins to breathe in a different way. And yes, that change can be felt. Not always through words, but through energy, presence, and awareness. It pushes reality into the light. Either the bond grows into something honest, or it shows you clearly where it cannot go. Both outcomes matter. Both outcomes bring freedom. This is often the moment when fear starts losing its grip. The old pattern weakens. The cycle of one person chasing while the other pulls away begins to break. Because when you choose growth, you stop feeding confusion. You stop calling uncertainty love. You stop treating silence like proof of depth. You begin to want something cleaner, clearer, and more real. And that new standard speaks without needing to shout. It simply says, if this is real, it must exist in real life. It must come with honesty. It must come with intention. It must come with accountability. That kind of truth can shake the other person more than pursuit ever could, because when you stop bending yourself to keep the bond alive, they are finally left alone with what they truly feel. Without your constant effort holding everything together, something important changes. There is suddenly space. Space where your reassurance used to be. Space where your patience used to cover uncertainty. Space where your emotional labor used to fill the gaps. And inside that space, truth begins to rise on its own. The idea of losing you fully may start to feel more real to them than they ever expected. Not as drama, not as panic, just as a simple emotional fact they can no longer avoid. But listen carefully, because this is where many people lose themselves. Your job is not to wait in uncertainty forever. Your job is not to stay suspended in hope, counting every silence, decoding every delay, or building whole stories out of tiny fragments. Your job is to stay rooted in self-respect while life reveals what is real. Real love is not something that only exists in private feelings. It is something that can survive clarity, time, distance, and truth. If they come back, let it be because they can meet you with honesty, not because they miss your energy while staying the same inside. And if they do not come back, let that truth stand too, because a painful truth is still kinder than a hope that keeps making you smaller. You are being prepared for depth, not fantasy. For clarity, not endless guessing. For a kind of love that can live in daylight, not only in memory, longing, or imagination. As this understanding grows, something else starts to change inside you. Thoughts of them may still come, but they arrive differently now. There is less panic, less reaching, less inner chaos, and more stillness, more awareness, more acceptance. That shift is not cold detachment, it is growth. It is your nervous system learning that it does not need to chase in order to survive connection. And when one person in a deep bond changes at that level, the whole dynamic begins to respond. Energy looks for balance. If you stop chasing, something will shift. It always does. Stay with this, because the next piece may be the one you needed most. If you stop begging life for answers and start living as if you are already anchored in your worth, the emotional current between you changes direction, not by force, not by games, by reality adjusting to your new position. They may begin to feel your absence in a new way, not as punishment, not as rejection, but as presence without demand. And that can be deeply confronting for someone who was used to your emotional availability always being there in the background. Because now they are left alone with their own patterns, their own silence, their own avoidance, their own truth. In that space, they may have to face what they kept pushing away, the walls they built, the habits they leaned on, the distance they kept justifying, the control they confused with safety. Those defenses may have protected them once, but they also limited their ability to experience the very kind of connection they truly long for. To move forward, they would need to risk vulnerability. They would need to stop hiding behind confusion, distance, or old pain responses, and that is not a small thing. It takes real courage, the kind of courage many people only find when they feel they are about to lose something they did not fully value until it started slipping away. But your role is not to rescue that process. Your role is not to carry it for them, not to wait forever for it, not to abandon yourself while hoping they transform. Your role is to honor yourself so completely that whatever happens next becomes clear without distortion. Whether this path leads to reunion or release, it should no longer break you. It should no longer reduce you. That is one of the clearest signs of healing. You can care deeply and still remain whole. You can feel love and still choose truth. You can hope without leaving yourself behind. There is a huge difference between emotional connection and self-erasure, and you are learning to see that difference more clearly now than ever before. That alone is a kind of freedom, and once you taste it, you cannot unknow it. There may still be unfinished meaning here. Not everything unresolved is meant to become permanent distance, but not everything unresolved is meant to become a lifelong bond either. Sometimes it simply means something honest still wants to be expressed. Words that were never said do not just disappear. Feelings that were never fully named do not vanish. They wait, they build, and sooner or later they ask for courage. That courage may lead to a conversation. It may lead to closure. It may lead to something new that looks nothing like the old version of this bond. But whatever it becomes, it will require honesty from both sides. Not assumption, not silence loaded with hope, not fear wearing the mask of distance, real honesty. Your fear may ask, can I trust what I already feel without needing proof every day? Their fear may ask, can I open up without falling back into old defense patterns? These are not small questions, but they are deeply human ones. And many times they begin moving quietly under the surface long before anyone speaks them aloud. You may notice that the idea of reunion no longer feels wild or desperate. It feels quieter now, more grounded, more realistic, less like chasing a fantasy, and more like understanding a truth that either aligns or does not. That shift changes everything about what you are willing to accept. True bonds are not meant to trap you in confusion or suffering. They are meant to guide you back to yourself. And if communication opens, let it open naturally. Do not force it. Do not rush to fill silence with meaning. Let actions show intention. Let consistency reveal truth. Let time expose what is real and what was only emotional intensity without stability. If fear rises again, let it rise without letting it lead. Fear is often only an echo from old experiences trying to protect you from uncertainty, but it is not always telling the truth. Sometimes it is only repeating the past. Pay attention instead to what your body is telling you, because your body often recognizes reality before your mind can explain it. When something is wrong, everything tightens. Your chest feels heavy. Your thoughts race. You feel yourself shrinking, overthinking, and doing emotional math just to feel safe. But when something is aligned, even if it is still uncertain, there is more room inside you, more breath, more steadiness, more quiet presence. That difference matters more than fantasy ever will, because the next stage of your journey will not ask for desperation. It will ask for discernment, the ability to know the difference between chemistry and compatibility, between longing and alignment, between intensity and emotional safety that can actually last. There is also a quiet strength that grows when you stop needing constant reassurance. You stop checking for signs every hour. You stop trying to decode every silence. You stop asking other people to confirm what your own inner awareness already senses. And then something in you settles. Not because you know the ending, but because you know yourself more clearly. That clarity changes everything. You no longer need to defend your feelings to people who do not understand them. You no longer need to lower your standards just to keep emotional access to someone. Real love does not require confusion as proof. It may challenge you, yes. It may transform you, yes. But it does not demand self-abandonment. If this bond is meant to grow, it will grow in truth. And if it cannot exist in truth, then truth itself will eventually release you from what was never meant to continue. So keep going, keep becoming, keep choosing clarity over confusion. Keep honoring the version of you that rose through this experience, because that version is not an accident. That awakening is not an accident. The deeper awareness growing in you now is not an accident. Do not miss this part, because it changes the whole meaning of what you have been through. If this connection rises into something real, you will meet it from strength, not hunger. And if it dissolves into understanding, you will not be left empty. You will be left wiser, clearer, more rooted in yourself than before. Either way, you return to yourself, and that return changes everything. It changes the way you love, the way you wait, the way you listen to your own heart. It changes what you accept and what you no longer call love, just because it hurts. Maybe this person came into your life to stay. Maybe they came to wake you up. Maybe the final answer has not fully arrived yet. But what matters now is not forcing the ending. What matters is becoming the kind of person who no longer needs confusion to feel chosen. The kind of person who can hold deep feeling without letting it destroy their center. The kind of person who understands that love, if it is real, must be able to live in honesty, must be able to live in action, must be able to live in the open, not only in private emotion. So if you still feel this connection, do not shame yourself for it. Do not rush to erase it just because it is hard to explain. But also do not let it become a reason to abandon your peace. Let it teach you. Let it refine you. Let it show you what your heart can recognize now that it could not recognize before. And then keep moving. Keep growing. Keep standing in your worth so fully that whatever belongs in your life will have to meet you there. If it is real, it will become clearer. If it is not, clarity will free you. That is the gift hidden inside this kind of bond. Not endless waiting, not endless pain, awakening, strength, truth, and a return to the deepest part of yourself that was always there, waiting for you to come home.